What is going on, guys? Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. We are coming live on the podcast to do another episode. So, what is happening, guys? I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful start to today as we get live across all of the socials. So, if you're coming into this one live, guys, team, you know what to do. Get down into the comments. Let us know that you've been here, that you've got the value, and then what your takeaways were maybe from this podcast. So the podcast goes out usually 2 or 3 times a week, right across Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, starting to move into TikTok as well. So it's really cool. We're starting to get quite a lot of views, and these come off the back of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So I just want to thank everyone who listens to the podcast for all the support you guys give us. So we're going to kickstart this episode in 2 minutes, guys. If you're coming to this one live, let us know that you're here. If you're here on replay, you want to go into the comments and hashtag replay. Let us know that you are here and we're ready to rock and roll. Can anyone? Okay, so just sending out a message to the team to stick and add everyone into the group. So what's going on, guys? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. We're going to start this episode up in 1 minute. We're going to be talking about the recipe for weight loss as a busy parent. And we're doing this episode because I know more than ever we're time poor, right? And that's the thing. That's the thing that's the variable in most of our lives. It's this like, oh my God, holy shit, I've got so much to do and not enough time to do it. I feel the exact same thing. So if that's you, don't feel like you're an idiot or there's something wrong with you. What we're going to do is talk about how you should utilize your time perhaps a little bit more efficiently to leverage it into actually being able to keep yourself fit and healthy and ready to rock and roll. So guys, come down into the comments. Let us know if you're here on replay. We're going to kickstart this episode off in 30 seconds. I'm going to send the message out to Instagram to bring the crew in here as well. So I think we're ready to get started. So let's do it. And good morning, team. I hope you're all having a great start to the morning. Now, if you want some more information about the program, all you need to do is DM me the word transform and we can talk to you about the next steps. So let's get stuck into it. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And so what we're going to do in this episode is I am going to give you the exact recipe for losing fat, losing weight as a busy parent. Oh my God. If you have recently become a parent, congratulations to you, because I know how fucking hard it is. It's challenging, right? You've got sleepless nights, endlessly packed days, and it almost feels like you have no time for yourself. Your currency that you work in as a busy parent is time, right? How do I get more time? Well, the truth is, you're not going to have any more time. Right? It's for me, my kids are, what are they? 4.5 and 2.5. And I'm thinking about my next 20 years and thinking, holy shit, they haven't even started running around to sports every single weekend and everything needs to come with that. So trying to master everything as a busy parent all of the time, all at once, from zero to hero, you're no chance. It's an absolute pipe dream. And so what a lot of people do is they scroll Instagram and they scroll TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and they try to suck up all of this information and then implement it. And the problem is that just ends up confusing people, because if you listen clearly enough to fitness industry, it seems like a lot of internal arguments, like people disagree with each other all the time. And so not only do you take on way too much information, in addition to that, you don't know what is actually the truth. So what I'm going to give you in this episode is my direct recommendations of the order and in the order of importance about how I would go about losing weight as a busy parent. There's a lot of things that you could do But if you are time poor, I'm going to give you the order in which you should do them. Now, the first one, we're going to talk about practical strategies here, guys. The first one that I'm going to say, and you might be like, well, of course you'd say that. But I'm going to tell you straight up, if you value your time and you don't have much of it, you need to get a coach. You need to get a coach and you need to get an accountability group. Now, I say that with absolute 100% belief because here's the reason I know that. I wasted 6 years fucking around trying to figure out how to create our mission in Better Body Academy. And then the moment that I got a coach that knew what to do, he funneled all of my actions into the important shit so that I didn't waste my time doing all the unimportant shit. And guess what? All of a sudden, we went from nothing to here, exponentially growing. Here's the facts. Losing weight is not hard. It's not hard. Keeping it off is. Keeping it off is brutally hard. Everything we're going to discuss in these next 4 or 5 steps is completely useless to you unless you actually do it. And if you do the wrong stuff, you just waste a lot of time. So for me, having someone that maps the process out clearly for you, like I will in this podcast, is important so you don't waste time, so you buy back your time. Secondly, having people that keep you accountable and on track is important because if you formulate a plan based on the fact that you will fail, you will fail. That's part of it, right? You will fuck it up, you'll mess it up. And when I fail, how am I going to get back on track? That's what you should be planning for. Step 1, get a coach and an accountability group. Step 2, I think the most underrated component of a fitness transformation journey is sleep. And I'll tell you why. Because when we talk about nutrition and working out next, the fact is none of those things are going to be very effective if you're not sleeping enough and enough quality. Here's what I see from so many people, and some of it's because people are really hardworking. You know, we work ourselves into no sleep. The other part of it is because we almost like work and then we stay up really late to make it feel like we have a life when we're watching Netflix. So what I see is these two competing forces of like hard work ethic and staying up late to make it feel like we have a life after we put the kids to bed. And then, of course, we've got the complication there of needing to wake up in the middle of the night when the kids wake up and walk into your room or start crying. All of this becomes this mesh of terrible sleep. Now, you cannot pour from an empty cup. All you mamas and dadas that are out there, and I know exactly what it feels like, do you crave chicken and broccoli when you've had 2 hours sleep? Fuck no. You crave coffee, you crave ice cream and Tim Tam biscuits, things that give you quick energy hits, right? Here's the thing, we've got to work it out. Like, there's got to be a period in your parenting journey, and this has been my thing here is like, experience is like, you know what? Like, sometimes you're just going to have shitty sleep because you're going to be waking up. You can't do anything about that. You can try to train your kids to sleep and you can do the best things you can do there, but guess what? You're just sometimes going to have shitty sleep. But beyond that, when the kids are old enough, 2, 3, 4, and my kids are getting there now, you got to be careful that if you are overweight and you're not sleeping, rather than thinking about all the food, that's the thing that I would fix first. It's the umbrella that comes over everything. There's a couple of reasons. When you are underslept and tired, your willpower is absolutely shitty because your body's trying to get you to prioritize the recovery, right? So you're not going to feel like working out if you are tired, overslept. So you've got to prioritize the sleep, and sleep works like a credit card. If you clock up a bunch of debt on your credit card, you have to pay back sleep debt. Has anyone felt this? Sleep debt is a thing. You can't just sleep for 2 hours a night during the week and then get to the weekend and think that you're going to be okay. You'll just literally hit the wall and need to repay that. So undersleeping kills your willpower. The second thing that it does is puts you into this hormonal state which is destructive. So what do I mean by that? Like, stop the fitness industry shit. What do I mean by that? When you are not sleeping, you have elevated levels of stress hormones, decreased levels of hormones like testosterone and estrogen. And so what ends up happening is it becomes the perfect cocktail for things like cravings, storage of belly fat, not feeling like working out. And then, of course, what happens when you have those cravings? You then eat sugary food and it piles on and the ball keeps rolling. So far what we've said is you need to get a coach and an accountability group. Number 2, you must sleep early. What I would try to recommend is shifting your sleep window, go to bed earlier and get up earlier. That's been something that's really, really worked for me. Again, a little bit different if you're a new parent, but shifting to, you know what, let me cut off the time at the end of the day when I'm already tired by going to bed earlier, and then let me add time to the start of the day when I've got the most amount of energy, the least amount of distractions. The one behavioral move that I see working over and over again, particularly for dads, is when they push everything backwards. They go to sleep earlier and they get up earlier. I see dads that are deeply in parenting and they make that change and everything changes for them. Let's talk about number 3. Let's talk about nutrition. So we're going to go into the practicals now. This is the recipe for losing weight as a busy parent. Number 3, this third ingredient that we're going to put in is mastering what we call the 80-20 rule. Okay? If 80% of what goes in your mouth is unprocessed foods, you don't even need to do any calorie tracking. People say, I fucking hate calorie tracking. It's the worst. And you know what? It does. It sucks. It's monotonous. It's a skill that you develop. But if you're just like, holy fuck, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm not going to spend my day plugging figures into MyFitnessPal. Well, guess what? If you make the switch to eating 80% unprocessed foods, that is going to do 2 things. Massively decrease your calorie intake. The second thing that it's going to do is massively increase your protein and fiber intake, which is going to fill you up. So you will lose weight and be full. That is the perfect strategy for weight loss. Lose weight because you're in a calorie deficit, but be full because you're eating higher protein foods, which we'll talk a bit more about in a moment. So what should you do? So many people say, dieting sucks, it makes me hungry. Yeah, it does if you're eating low satiating foods. It's fucking horrible. If you're trying to cut down your intake of food and your intake of food remains hyper processed foods, you are going to be really, really hungry all the time because those hyper processed foods contain a lot of fat and a lot of sugar, which basically means that you don't have to eat much of them to be in a calorie surplus again. Whereas when you're eating very high volume foods like fruit and meat and vegetables, these types of foods, they fill you up. So the practical is to step back. And when you're pushing around your trolley, just like have a look at your trolley. If you can see more than a handful of packaged items in your trolley, you're going to struggle. Your trolley should be predominantly fruits, vegetables, and things like meats and eggs, things that are not packaged or tampered with in any way. If you did this, this would just lead to you being in a calorie deficit and full all the time. Does this make sense? Okay, number 4. Remember, that doesn't require any calorie tracking at all. If you look around your house and you open your fridge and you've got tons of packets, that's the source of the issue. if you open your fridge and you can see green veggies all there, and you can see meats that all they have is literally the saran wrap, the Glad wrap over the top, and that's what you're looking for. Okay, number 4. So after we've gone and we've said, you know what, like fuck calorie tracking, I'm just going to make sure that I eat 80% unprocessed foods. The next thing we want to look at when it comes to our nutrition is I'm going to prioritize protein at every meal. Even if I don't track it, that's fine. Anything here I haven't said so far around nutrition is that you need to track your nutrition. It's helpful, but if you're a busy parent and you've got a kid in one hand and you're dropping the other kid at school, right? Like calorie tracking is going to be very fucking difficult for you. But if you instead just went, hey, you know what? Like this is processed. Why am I eating this? Let me just substitute this for something else. People think that when coaches talk about processing, they think it's to do with like cancer risk or something like that. I'm not talking about cancer risk. I'm not talking about heart disease or cholesterol or any of that shit. I'm saying if you want to lose weight, the simplest thing you can do is stop eating processed foods. Do you know ordering a pizza, the average pizza is going to contain somewhere between 1,800 and 2,500 calories? One meal, one pizza. One meal, one pizza. Right? Now, for someone, a guy trying to lose weight, that's all you need for the entire day. So if you eat the whole pizza and then a couple of beers with it, that's it for the day. That's all you need. But you're going to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, right? This is the problem with high calorie foods. These foods don't exist in the real world. They don't exist. If it comes in a packet, it's just going to be packed with calories. Okay, so let's talk about number 4, which is to prioritize protein at every meal. Okay, so what does that actually look like? Who here is a breakfast person? If you're a breakfast person, most of the country has been brought up with breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and that looks like a cereal, right? A breakfast cereal. That's certainly what I grew up with. So I grew up having either muffins, so like English muffins, crumpets with some jam on them, or a breakfast cereal like Nutrigrain, right? For those of you in Australia that recognize that name, that's what I would eat, or Wheat Bix or something like that. Those foods contain fuck all protein. So what's the issue there? Well, as a busy parent who needs to prioritize protein, protein fills you up, and it also sends the signal that if you're in a calorie deficit, right? In other words, you're cutting your calories down, don't break down muscle, break down fat, okay? If you're having a breakfast that's basically a 500 calorie breakfast that's all carbohydrate, I'm not demonizing carbohydrate. I'm just saying if you're not having the protein, what ends up happening? You're hungry again 2 or 3 hours later. In addition to that, it means that if you had no protein in your breakfast, you've got to make that protein up somewhere else later in the day, which means you're going to have to jam a bunch of protein and become really dependent on protein supplements because you didn't have a protein-enriched breakfast. So when it comes to breakfast, my suggestion is this. You take one of 2 options. If you're not much a breakfast person, just do some fasting. That's completely fine. And then when you have your first meal, perhaps at lunch, right, make sure that that first meal is a very rich protein meal that's got at least 50 grams of protein in it. If you love breakfast like I do, you need to make sure that it's not a carbohydrate-based breakfast, something like, toast with jam. That's just a terrible fucking breakfast. Or a fat-based breakfast, a big fucking chunk of avocado on top of a piece of focaccia. That sounds healthy. It's not. I'll say that again. It's not that it's not healthy. It's not conducive to you losing weight. Okay? Let's talk about a fruit juice or a fruit smoothie. That sounds like a good, healthy idea. Not really, because of the fact that, yes, it contains lots of vitamins and minerals, all the good shit, but no protein. There's no protein in fruit. So what happens is you get all of the calories and the sugar in and of itself, not an issue, but you don't get any protein, which means that you've just had 500 calories, no protein. So that means that all of the protein has got to come from the back end of the day, lunch and dinner. So by skipping a meal, right, you really got to go with two options when it comes to breakfast. You either have to, you can fast, right, and just don't eat anything. A good idea would be to eat a protein shake, right? 2 scoops of protein powder, boom, into some water. That's 50 grams of protein. That's a way better breakfast. So if you got the option between eating a cereal and eating a protein shake, 2 scoops of protein, that's a perfect breakfast if you're not a breakfast person. 2 scoops of protein at 7 o'clock in the morning in a glass of water, stir it up, gulp it down, boom. You've just got 50 grams of protein in for 250 calories. That's really smart. So you either do that or you go to having a breakfast that contains protein. Like, for example, rather than toast and jam, you would have toast and 3 eggs with some cottage cheese. That's a great breakfast. What I personally do, and I'm not saying you should do this because you might be like, that's just so boring, I can't even think about it. I'll just tell you what I do. Every single day, I buy egg whites, buy like liquid egg whites. I literally just get a liquid egg white like I would scrambled eggs, except it just doesn't have the yolk. I get the liquid egg whites, pour it into a pan, stir it round, turn it into a scramble, season it with tahin, the Mexican spice tahin. I've got 50 grams of protein for 250 calories. It's the same as having a protein shake. It is so filling, in fact, much more filling than the protein shake. And guess what? If I've got 50 grams of protein in at breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning, that means that I can have more carbs towards the end of the day. This is the magic right here. Okay, let's talk about step 5. So far we've said, you want the perfect recipe to lose weight? Get a coach and an accountability community. Get to sleep. Shift your sleeping window from staying up late and waking up late to going to bed early and getting up early. Number 3, master the 80-20 rule of nutrition. Look at your trolley. If it's processed foods, more than 15 to 20% processed foods, you need to change that. Number 4 is to prioritize protein at every single meal. You have to hit your daily protein target. I've got 2 more for you. Number 5 is when it comes to exercise, the default thing that I would be doing, presuming that you are an overweight parent, I would be choosing to just walk more. The reason that I would be choosing to walk more over something like going to the gym, for example, is that it's a low barrier to entry. Anyone can walk. It doesn't cost them anything. They can do it anywhere. They can do it in whatever clothes they've got. They don't have to have a shower to do it. Literally, you can just walk out the door. You can do it for as long or as short as you want. It doesn't matter whether you do it on a beach or a treadmill. It does not matter. Our society, you and me, I'm guessing you're probably watching this while you're sitting at a desk or sitting in a car. If I don't prioritize my steps, I can easily sit here for 10 to 12 hours and finish the day on 2,000 steps. In fact, it quite often happens. Do you know what's happening when you're sitting down all fucking day? You're not burning any calories, especially if you've got a shitty metabolism, which most busy parents have. So you've got this car, this engine that's not very big, and you don't drive it very much. So do you think it burns much petrol? No. And then on the nutrition side, you keep filling it up with this high processed food, fucking pizzas, there's 2,000 calories, 3 beers, there's another 450 calories, Tim Tams, half a packet there. Holy fuck. You haven't burnt anything. And then on this side, you've just filled the petrol tank up with triple what it needs. This is why busy parents gain weight. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. This isn't a time issue. This is I don't understand nutrition issue. And then when it comes to exercise, you're never going to do enough steps that it's going to outpace your food intake. It never work. But stepping is a really good way, particularly post-meal, if you can factor in to do 10 minutes of walking after breakfast, lunch, and dinner somehow, That is an amazing step, and it will bring you wonders in terms of your digestion, your ability to get outside and spend some time in the sun, burning some extra calories, and it doesn't cost you a thing. The final steps, I've brought this down into 6 steps. Now that you're walking fairly consistently, you must start resistance training. Now, people switch off sometimes. Women switch off because they're like, I don't want to get bulky. Men switch off because they say, I don't have any time, or I don't like gyms, they're full of meatheads. But actually, those things are you simply exercising your intimidation, expressing your intimidation through self-limiting beliefs, right? Gyms are just not a gym person. Of course, you're not a gym person. That's just like me saying I'm not a ballet person because I haven't never done fucking ballet, right? You don't become a person until you start doing it, right? So if you're not a gym person, that's cool. Guess what we do? We start at home. We do it with some basic body weight. And then we turn that into some resistance training. And then we can add some dumbbells. There's 3 steps there for you before you ever go and step foot in a gym if you're not the type of person that likes to throw themselves in the deep end. But here's why you have to do it. The world, we all focus on, there's this obesity crisis, and it's true. You know the one thing that would fix it? If we all started building some muscle. Do you guys know what's happening as a consequence of all the people around the world taking GLP-1s, things like Ozempic, right? You know what's happening now? You guys know? Well, because they're losing weight so quickly, of which a huge portion of it is actually muscle, they're not actually using the body to carry around the weight, nor are they changing their lifestyle. They're just taking a tablet. You know what's actually happening? Bone mineral density is declining big time. And what that means is that you are going to see a huge uptake of, firstly, bone issues like osteoporosis, which if you're a 40-year-old guy, you're thinking to yourself, like, I don't give a fuck about that. Until you're a 60-year-old guy and you fall over and break your hip within 1 year, you're dead. Strength training and muscle is the fountain of youth and health. If you have mobility when you're 60 years old, you're going to be walking around with your shoulders up, a great life, being able to pick up your grandkids and being able to go do a fucking skydive if you want. If you are walking around and you don't have any strength, your posture's terrible, your view is going to be of the ground. You're going to be constantly in back pain, curled over, back pain, neck pain. And then what's going to happen is you're not going to see something on the road and you're going to trip over and you have no balance, no mobility, no strength, fall over, and you'll be dead within a year. That's what happens, but people don't fucking talk about it. So you have to prioritize your resistance training now. How? What do I do? How long? Literally 2 or 3 days a week, 30 to 40-minute sessions. That's it. And you can start at home. So guys, we're going to recap. Okay. This podcast, if you're just joining it on replay, has been about the recipe that you need to follow in order of losing fat and keeping it off as a busy parent. Number 1, get a coach and an accountability group so you don't waste time trying to figure it out by yourself and stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting all the time. Number 2, you need to get your sleep in check first because it's the determinant of everything that comes after this. I would suggest go to bed a little bit earlier, like force yourself to go to bed a little bit earlier and treat your sleep as the elixir of health. And then get up a little bit earlier. Just shift your window backwards. Number 3, we're going to master our nutrition. Again, I didn't say calorie tracking. I didn't say trying to take photos of food. I just said eat less processed foods. That's it. All that means stop eating pizza and pasta dishes and pre-made meals and instead just eat meat, vegetables, fruit. That's pretty much it. Eggs, that's it. Like, the fat will fall off you. Like, literally, you do nothing else but that, the fat will fall off you. Number 4, you've got to prioritize protein at every meal. When it comes to breakfast, you either don't have breakfast and do some fasting and then eat a protein-rich meal first up, or you have a protein-rich breakfast that has 30 to 40 grams of protein in it, absolutely minimum. Something like like I said, cottage cheese egg omelet. Amazing. Number 5, you got to build a non-negotiable step habit. Walking is the most potent combination to a good nutrition plan and a good workout plan. If you haven't done 10,000 steps in the last 10 years, don't think that you can do 10,000 steps. Just try to do 2,000 steps. Get a tracker that says on your watch how many steps you've done and slowly build that up over time. And then finally, number 6, once you've got your nutrition in check, you're starting to build your steps up, and now you're like, okay, how can I add a little bit in? That's where you're going to add resistance training in. You can start at home if you want and gradually progress into a gym if that time permits, if that availability permits. 2 to 3 sessions, 30 to 40 minutes a week, you are done. This is the perfect recipe for fat loss. So what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, on that list of 6, where do I sit? If I haven't got a coach and I'm still trying to figure it out by myself, I'd suggest you start there. If you've got a coach and you're just struggling, I know you guys in Better Body Academy already, some of you are just struggling to get started. It's because you're not sleeping enough. You're not prioritizing your sleep. You have to get to bed early and get up early. Once you're doing that, let's work on our nutrition. So just go down the list that I provided you without trying to do all 6 at once. Hopefully this has been helpful, even if only for a reminder. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast. We'll come to you hopefully once or twice more through the week, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Okay, team, over and out. I'm going to check to see if we've got any questions or comments. Let us know if you want to ask anything, guys, and I'm more than happy to stick around and answer it from the crew. It looks like for Facebook, for whatever reason, guys, I can see all of you watching, but I don't have comments on here, so sometimes our streaming service just decides to do that. What about on Instagram? Do you guys want to ask anything? Can I help in any way? You can certainly send me an inbox if there's something you want to ask directly. We might leave it there, like I said, because I can't get the comments through at the moment on Facebook, so a bit pointless. But apart from that, guys, appreciate you. Hopefully you got value. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, you can do so on Spotify or Amazon or what's the other one? Apple. And of course, give the podcast a rating if you're getting value out of that. If you'd like me to cover any topics, then certainly send me a message and I'll try to do so. Peace, guys. Thanks for watching.